Hey guys, it's Amara here, and sorry my voice sounds like this. I am currently getting over a cold, but I'm very excited for this idea. I saw this on Haley and Bookland's channel. I am going to be looking at my top 5-star reads from Goodreads, and this will be very interesting because Goodreads has not always been a constant in my life. I don't know how else to explain this other than I'm terrible at tracking my books. I am terrible at tracking my reading challenges. I kind of just read when I want to read. I feel very pressured when I have to log and rate all of my books that I'm reading and then pick out the dates when I read them and when I finished them. I think it's very overwhelming. I have no idea. I'm very just pick up a book, read it, place it on my bookshelf. That's kind of just the system that I have. So I really did not start using Goodreads again until the beginning of this year, which I know sounds so bad. So I didn't start logging all of the books that I've read until I was 17. So a lot of these books that I rated are from my high school days. So this is going to be so interesting, and I have not looked at the list yet. So let's get right into it. Also, is anyone just kind of over Goodreads? I feel like I've been seeing a lot of hype and recognition for Storygraph. I actually think I'm going to start using Storygraph more. I really like the idea of Storygraph. I think it gives you a more realistic and in-depth kind of overview of your yearly reading, and it gives you like how many pages you've read in that year and kind of graphs the entire like genres that you've been reading, and I feel like it's just categorized better. So I'm definitely gonna switch over to Storygraph soon, and I will let you guys know how that is. I have it pulled up on my phone right now. I'm so nervous to see some of the things that I've given 5 stars. I feel like some of them are gonna be terrible. Oh, okay, let's do this. The first book that I have on here that I've given 5 stars is Speak by Laurie Anderson. And I'm honestly very, very surprised that I've given this one 5 stars. I remember reading this in, I think it was freshman year maybe, or honestly it might have even been 8th grade. I can't remember exactly, but I remember it being a very slow burn read, but I also know that the theme is extremely important, and I think the entire concept as a whole is extremely important and influential, and I definitely think that it is something that every young adult should read at least once in their lifetime. So I get why it's implemented into the school reading system, but I do remember not being astonished by this book. It wasn't something that I would probably ever read again. I remember the writing being very mediocre, and I remember having such a hard time getting into it, but I also know that with this type of book, it's not really going to be something that just immediately like pulls you in because of how heavy the topic is, if that makes sense. I know there are books like that. I just do not expect a book of this sort of range to do that for me. But yeah, I'm very surprised that I've given this 5 stars. I definitely would probably give it a 3-star rating now. Okay, the second book that I have on here that I've given 5 stars is actually a book that I read at the beginning of this year. It was in January, and I think it was the first book that I read this year. It was A Secret History by Donna Tartt. I loved this book so much. This is the first dark academia type read that I have ever read before, and I felt like there was so much information and history and philosophy and Greek literature all stuffed in to this book. This book was really suspenseful, and it always kept me on my toes. There were certain things though that I will say definitely just like flew over my head because I'm not too familiar with Greek culture and Greek history. And I know this book took her many, many years to write, and I absolutely loved it. You could really tell the hard work and the dedication that went into creating this book, and I would personally recommend it. yeah, I definitely would still give that 5 stars. This book is called It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini. And I remember this is the first book that I read that was about mental illness. And I loved it so much because I felt like the depiction was pretty accurate, and it was written by someone who had an ongoing and constant struggle with mental health issues. So I felt like it was written from a perspective of someone who actually experienced what they were talking about firsthand. So that is something that I really appreciated. I know a lot of people think that this book kind of romanticizes mental illness, but I have a different opinion about that. I personally did not think that this book romanticized mental illness at all. I think it was completely raw, real, and honest, and I would recommend this book to anyone who is struggling with a mental illness. The next book that I gave 5 stars was City Lights Pocket Poets Anthology, which was edited by Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and I don't even remember reading this. It's probably on the shelf behind me somewhere, but yeah, I don't remember reading this. I have no recollection at all, so it must not have been a 5-star read. I'm usually really good with the books that I rate 5 stars. I feel like they're always really memorable, so I'm shocked that I don't remember reading this. I don't know if it's because it was a poetry series, so maybe it just didn't really stick with me as much as a novel would, but I love poetry, so I find that really hard to believe. So yeah, I'm not sure why I gave it 5 stars. The next book that I gave 5 stars was Withering Heights by Emily Bronte, and this is making me laugh so hard right now because whenever I was logging in all of my books that I read when I first created a Goodreads, I really must not have been paying attention to everything that I was adding, because this is not the actual Withering Heights by Emily Bronte in here. This is Withering Heights by G.R. Hogbin. I've never heard of this, but I definitely meant the original. And yeah, I would still give this 5 stars. Love the Brontes, honestly. Oof. Brontes are my fave. Like, those are my girls. Love them. Honestly, I love them so much. I could teach an entire literature class on the Brontes for 5 years straight, and I don't think I would get bored. I freaking love those sisters to death. I don't know what it is. Does anyone else have like an author, like a classic author that they're just obsessed with and they reread their work all the time? Because that is me with Withering Heights and Jane Eyre. Okay, also Villette. I do love Villette. And we can't forget Anne. I feel like Anne is always left out. We love Anne here too. I don't know why the heck I have the entire series of Unfortunate Events in here as 5 stars. I really must have been adding every single book on my bookshelf onto my Goodreads bookshelf as well. Like, why did I do that? Why was I doing that? The next book that I have in here is A Midsummer Night's Dream by our good old guy, William Shakespeare. You know, we love Shakespeare here. I'm not surprised that I gave this a 5 star. There was a point in my high school career where I knew that I was going into English literature when I went to college. I knew that was going to be my career choice. I always knew it was something that I was going to pursue. And I remember telling my friends William Shakespeare was my soulmate in another life. Like, how embarrassing is that? That is so embarrassing. Like, young Amara, oh god, no wonder why you only still have 3 friends. Like, my goodness! I really had to get it together. So the next book that I gave 5 stars was Ariel by Sylvia Plath, and this is a poetry collection, and I remember reading this, I think, my freshman year of college, and this was my first introduction to Sylvia Plath, and I remember loving this so much, so I would still give this 5 stars. I think if you are into poetry, then you should definitely check out Sylvia Plath. Macbeth was also another 5-star read. I would also still give Macbeth 5 stars to this day. This is still my favorite Shakespeare play ever. I swear by Macbeth. I don't know a single person who doesn't like Macbeth. Tuesdays with Laurie by Mitch Albom is another 5-star read that I have, and I'm very surprised because I remember not liking this book that much, so I don't know why I gave it 5 stars. I remember it also being such a slow burner. I think I gave this book 5 stars because it was really deep and poetic and philosophical, but this definitely is not my usual read. So I'm very surprised I gave it 5 stars. I'd probably give it 3 stars if I were to reread it. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I don't know if I pronounced his first name right. I'm so sorry. I remember reading this, I think, my senior year of high school. I think Brave New World was the first book that I started to really understand what a dystopian novel was. And this really opened up my eyes to a lot of dystopian works and a lot of literary criticism, and yeah, this book holds a really special place in my heart. I remember analyzing this a lot when I first read it. There was just really something about this book that made me feel a certain type of way. I don't know, this felt like really academic for me when I was reading it when I was younger, just because of how I was analyzing and annotating it. So I definitely would still give this 5 stars. Next one I have on here is Bluets by Maggie Nelson, which is one of my favorite poetry and prose collections. I love Maggie Nelson and I love her writing. And Bluets is super, super unique because of the entire concept of this book is written around the color blue. So it's wonderful. I think it's so brilliant. Absolutely love it. I'm so sorry if you guys are probably annoyed by my voice. I'm also annoyed. Like, make it go away. Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. It's the sickness. It's the cold. Eleanor and Park, I would also give this 5 stars. I remember reading this too. Are there ever those books that you remember the exact moments in time of when you were reading the book? Because I remember the exact location, the exact song I was listening to as I was reading this, and it makes me all warm inside. I love it. Well, those are all of my 5-star reads that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. I remember when I was younger, I didn't really rate my books accordingly. Like, I was super easy on the rating scale when I was reading. If I liked a book and I had a fun time reading it, it was like an automatic 5-star to me. So it didn't even matter if, like, the writing was bad, if the plot wasn't that well developed, if the characters fell flat. I would still give these books 5 stars, but as I've gotten older and I've really taken my time with my reading, I definitely do not give out 5 stars as frequently as I used to. And hopefully next time when I see you guys, I am not sick and I don't sound like a croaking frog. But if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for me. I love every single one of you guys that is subscribed to my channel. It means so much to me. I'm like, oh my god, wow, people like watching me. That is still such an insane concept. Like, oh my goodness, really? Me? But I'm so grateful for all of you, and wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye!